Hey guys, you thinking about getting a bottle calf? Let us help you out. This is part 1 on raising bottle babies, all about the milk. So what kind of milk? Well, raw milk is best, raw milk from a cow. But not everybody has access to a cow or raw milk, so the next best thing, yes, is milk replacer. Not whole milk from the grocery store. Some people can do that with baby goats. Baby calves are a little bit different. The people who develop milk replacers do a fantastic job. Not all milk replacers are the same, and we're going to talk about some of those now. So sometimes milk replacer will be labeled with a protein and fat content. I've got a cat that's about to jump up here. So it'll be labeled as 20/20, 24/24, sometimes 22/20. It really doesn't matter. Just pick one and stick with it. You'll figure out the way the calf tolerates that specific milk as you get going, but just don't be flip-flopping back and forth. Make sure you have all milk protein. So flip the bag over, read the ingredients. It should say whey or all milk. Yes, stay away from soy. Do not get a soy milk replacer for young calves. They cannot process the soy. I know this from experience. The older calves seem to do just fine on it. And I'm sure there are people out there who have reared calves with soy-based milk replacer for a long time. In my experience, which this video is all about our experience, the soy protein in milk replacer does not fare well with calves. Medication. Okay, so some milk replacers will come medicated. This isn't an antibiotic. It's not allowed. You can't get that at your local Tractor Supply or Atwoods anymore. The medication in there is a coccidiostat. It protects the calf from coccidiosis. There's coccidia in the ground. They're going to get it. How bad it is, it just kind of depends on their load. And all animals that eat off the ground have coccidia in their system. Coccidiostat keeps it from getting really, really bad and out of control. And we will talk more about what to do if you do have a calf that has coccidia in a later video, but or an overload of coccidia in a later video. But don't get fearful of medicated milk replacer. The coccidiostats are nothing to be scared of. They're only going to be on milk replacer for a short while. So by the time you're sending the steer to the butcher, you're drinking the milk from the cow. That coccidiostat that was in the milk replacer is long gone and out of their system. And also decide what's available. You may only be able to get 20/20 soy-based milk replacer. And if that's all that's available, that's all that's available. But you want to make sure you can get it consistently. And I'm going to say that's probably the number one thing when deciding on what kind of milk replacer to get. Just be consistent. Stick with the same thing. Oh, we got some rain coming. Stick with the same thing throughout the whole process. Okay, so what are you going to put the milk in? Well, there's a couple options. We've got bottles. So here's your standard bottle from Tractor Supply. It's got a big thick nipple. It's got an opening on the end. There is a vent hole right there. This is a 2-quart milk bottle. And if you can see, this happens often. The calves suck really, really hard and we'll bend the bottle, and sometimes we'll get holes there and then we'll have to trash the bottles. We have so many of these. There are different nipples when you get to Tractor Supply. So this is primarily for goats, but calves will drink out of it. This one's primarily for calves. If this is all you can find, then use it. It's better than nothing. But this one is primarily for calves. This one's goats. These I've never seen at Tractor Supply. We ordered these, but these are big guys. These are 6 pints, so you're looking at almost 3 quarts. A little bit bigger than this. You can fit a little bit more milk in there. Which is good as the calf gets older. When we raised veal calves and they were on milk the whole time, we would switch to these when we had bottle calves. So why a bottle? It's more natural. There's a sucking reflex, and it is easier to measure because they have the measurements on the side. I don't know if you can see that. Measurements on the side. They're really cute when they're sucking on a bottle. There also is a lot of saliva that they start to produce when they're sucking, so that's a really good stimulant, and we'll talk about that later. The milk does tend to stay warmer in the bottles when you're transporting it maybe from the house to the barn. You have a little bit more opportunity to bond with the calf since you're the one holding the bottle. And the calf sucking it. So there's a bonding thing there also. Bottle holders. So here's a bottle holder from Tractor Supply. Super simple. We don't get everything from Tractor Supply, but when we're in a pinch, it's right down the road. And so it goes right like that, and you hang it on the fence, and you don't have to hold the bottle. There's going to come a time where you don't want to hold a bottle anymore. It is a lot of fun to raise bottle calves, but after a while, it gets tiring sitting there holding the bottle. And when they start butting the bottle, sometimes it can hurt, especially for little kids who are helping out on the farm. So bottle holders tend to be really, really nice. Okay, the other option are buckets. Okay, so here's just a standard flat back bucket. Oh, look at that, ITLA. This is one of our Longhorn buckets for our showmanship winner. So these are flat back buckets. We can hang them on the fence and pour the milk in. There's a lot of people out there who have raised bucket calves. We're one of them. What's the reason for feeding a bottle calf out of a bucket? Well, they can consume more. This bucket will hold a lot more than either one of these bottles. And when they're getting really big and you're wanting them to consume a lot of milk, that helps a lot. They're also easier to wash. These suckers are really a pain in the butt to wash. We can actually wash the buckets outside, where these bottles, we have to bring them inside and wash them in the kitchen. You don't have to hold the bucket. We do hang them on the fence for a little while, but as they get bigger and they get really excited, we put them on the ground and just let them have at it. And so we don't have to hold that. And those buckets, they last a lot longer, and they're a lot more versatile than the bottle. We only really use these for baby calves and some maybe goats sometimes. But the buckets, when you're done using them for milk, then you can use them for something else, feed or brushes or all sorts of stuff. She's hollering at her calf. So really, it just kind of depends on what you have. A lot of people say, no, they need the angle of their neck from sucking on a bottle keeps the milk in the right spot. That is wrong. I have a really good friend of mine who has worked in so many dairies up north in Wisconsin. So it's a really, really heavy dairy area up there. And there are so many studies showing that it has nothing to do with the angle of the head, but a stimulant. There's an esophageal groove that switches from allowing things to go into the rumen or closing off the rumen. You want the milk to go straight into the abomasum, and that's where it digests the best. There's an enzyme in there called renin, and that's where the milk needs to be digested. That's where the milk needs to be digested. You don't want it in the rumen because it'll ferment, and nobody likes fermented milk. So anyway, so that esophageal groove needs to close off the rumen, and the way it does that is through stimulus responses, like knowing they're about to eat, they get really excited. The milk being warm, y'all, when you feed milk, listen, and I'm going to put it up here. When you're feeding milk to a calf, make sure it is 101 degrees, no less. 101 degrees when it gets into the calf, even when it's hot outside. The temperature of the milk makes a huge difference in that the way the esophageal groove closes off the rumen. That is a stimulus response, and you want that to happen. Okay, you need to stop. Anyway, so let's see, saliva, that's a big one. That is why sometimes it is a little bit better to use a bottle because of the amount of saliva they start to, develop whenever they're sucking on the bottle. And that also closes off the rumen. What else? Okay, so how long? How long are you going to feed your bottle calves? Longer is better. 6 weeks is the minimum, and then you need to feed grain. So if you are on a mission to have grass-fed calves, being on a bottle for 6 weeks is not going to do it. It's going to have to be longer. 8 weeks is pretty common. That's 2 months. You can do it for 2 months. I got to say, after about 4 weeks is whenever it gets a little tough. You don't really want to go outside when it's cold and feed the calves anymore. But 8 weeks is pretty common. Then they will also need grain, and that's in another video. So keep a lookout for that. 16 weeks, that's awesome. 4 months on milk or milk replacer will make sure you have a really, really good calf that's nice and big and has been started well. So yes, that's great. 16 weeks. So how often? Well, if you have time, 3 times a day is great. Sometimes people don't have that kind of time, but that's what we do. We try to do 3 times a day. If our time's allowing, and we try to work up to a gallon a day. So a gallon a day is 2 of these standard size bottles. So if we were doing this 3 times a day, we would probably do a pint or a pint and a half in the morning, and then another pint and a half in midday, and then 2 pints in the evening. I love having them with full bellies in the evening, especially when it's cold. If you don't have time to do 3 times a day, that's totally okay. Remember, we talked about consistency. 2 times a day is great. Working up to a full gallon a day. So working up to 1 of these bottles twice a day. Why do I say working up to it? Well, especially when you get these little baby calves that still have their umbilical cords on, and they can't consume that much at one time. They've been, a lot of them have been just pulled off their mama where the milk bar was open 24/7 and they just snacked here and there. So they do have to work up to large amounts twice a day. So I would suggest starting out with a pint twice a day for the first 2 days, and then going up to 2 pints twice a day for the next 2 or 3 days. And as long as they're still doing good, then increase it the next day. And by the time they're about 10 days old or so, they should be getting 2 bottles twice a day. Jersey versus beef. Y'all, here's the thing. Beef calves and even Holsteins, they've got a lot more cushion, and they have a lot more natural meat on their bones and natural fat that will get them through a hard time if they have scours, or that's a fancy term for diarrhea. But Jerseys don't. So if you have a Jersey baby, start slow, work your way up. You want them to still be hungry when you're done. You really want that. You don't want them to be so full they're just going to go fall over and lay down. You want them to still be hungry. Hopefully that answered all your questions. And I'll always have helpers here, so they'll make their debuts. They'll make their debuts, I'm certain, throughout these videos. So again, this was Bottle Calves Part 1, all about the milk. Look out for Part 2. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.